We just talk about the consequence of workplace mobbing, the consequence to individuals, to institute, to organizations, even to the society. So I think you both will have a lot to talk about the consequences of workplace mobbing.
What has fascinated me in my research is differences in the consequences of mobbing, dependent on, for instance, how singularly invested the mobbing target is in this workplace. What I have found is that mobbing targets who have no family, who live by themselves, and who are totally immersed in the given occupation, whatever it is, profession, when that rug is pulled out from under them, their lives very often are totally destroyed. Mobbing is much less serious in its effects on the target when the mobbing target has other social contexts to balance, like family, for instance, or church, or some voluntary association. I studied the case, for instance, of a professor who was mobbed out of his job, very wrongly, cruelly. This professor was a Buddhist, and his head was always in Buddhism. He scarcely knew he'd been run out of his job, except that the paychecks quit coming. So the personal effect on him was relatively modest. Otherwise, so that's what I would start, that's why I think for anybody in a workplace, one practical advice from my research is cultivate multiple contexts of life, so that if one goes south, you've got another to kind of pick up on it.
Don't put all your eggs
in the same basket.
The same basket. Great point. Janice?
Oh, I think that's an excellent point, and that's something that any mobbing target needs to keep in mind. Even if their whole world evolves around their profession, their workplace, they need to, at the earliest sign of problems, begin to find new social supports outside the organization. It's critical because mobbing changes your identity. The process of mobbing means redefining you as a poor worker, as an unlikable worker, as potentially a dangerous worker. And it becomes a threat to your economic security because you lose your job and in many cases your profession. It's devastating to lose your identity, to lose your social support. So you do need to expand your social group. The consequences of mobbing can be great in large part because people are unprepared for it and because it comes with that the constancy of attack on your abilities, attacks on your personality, attacks on your value, and you become devalued, you become dehumanized in the process. And it's so confusing. So it's devastating psychologically. It can be devastating professionally. It can be devastating economically. I know in my own case, I lost all my friends because my whole network was around my profession. I lost my home. I lost all my money, all my retirement. I was a single mother, and I found myself completely destitute. And that's and unemployable at the age of 50. And so that is really difficult for people to face. The consequences for the institution, on the other hand, can be more mixed. The consequences for the institution may include potential lawsuits, scrutiny by the press, but it also can include greater cohesion. People have found their enemy and they've got a scapegoat. And so there can be suddenly great unity. Coworkers get promotions as they're rewarded for participating in the behavior. And so the institution itself can find great value in mobbing, which is one reason it happens.
Yeah, that's kind of, that's a situation in some case. I think what I like what you both just mentioned, the same thing, isolation. Workplace mobbing, the consequence is just think about that. You're isolated from your world.
Yes, from your world,
So
from your support group. Yes.
the world you lived in, all of a sudden, everything is different. So,
and as I write in my book, we're primates, we're social creatures. So when you take away our social support, that becomes a threat to our very survival.
Yeah, your identity, especially for professionals like academic, doctors, nurse, you lost your identities. That's the worst part. Speak to that isolation, the community. What is good about the World Association for Research on Workplace Mobbing? The WARWM, the organization we created, is one of the things is we could create some kind of mobbing target, mobbing
sense of
victim
support.
community. So,
but also I think it's really important for targets to move forward. And while I think there's great value in finding support through mobbing organizations, because it makes you realize, oh, this isn't just me. This is something, I hear from people all the time. I thought I didn't know there was a name for what I'd been through. I didn't know others experienced this. So I think that's critical. But at the same time, it's also critical to not define yourself as a mobbing target, to not make that your new identity. Yeah. To move forward with your life. And that may mean a completely new profession. It may mean a completely new set of friends. But it's important to recognize your own value. And I think one of the biggest criticisms against my work is that I'm accused often of victim blaming. And that's because I believe that one of the benefits to mobbing is if we use that opportunity to reflect on ourselves and our own errors in judgment, the ways we are perceived by others, it can be a real growth experience. And if you do that with self-compassion, not self-blame, but self-compassion, to see ways in which maybe it's, mobbing is a series of actions, but that comes with a series of reactions. And how is it that we react? I know in my own case, I made it much worse, but I made no secret of how angry I was, and that did not help. I made no secret of the fact that I was going to sue them, and I did, and that did not help. And it's so much of, that we are participants in the process of mobbing, even if it's even as undeserved and cruel as mobbing is. But it's also an opportunity for us to see, how are we perceived by our coworkers? And how are we reacting to incidents? Or, I know I was firing off 1 million emails. That didn't help.
That provides a great advice for those who were mobbed. One of the things I think is important is the mobbing target or mobbing victim. They do not talk about their experience. They think, I'm the only one. Until I would say, I think Ken would have a lot to say about that. Until they just saw your website.
Well, Janice, all those emails that you sent in anger, I'm not sure that was time wasted, because it's much better when you're angry to get it off your chest than it is to bottle it up. And so maybe those emails were therapeutic. At least they let you get the anger outside yourself. I really like your emphasis and the whole thrust of your work against the culture of victims in our time now, because we got a culture that values victimhood and that has all kinds of professions that are set up to pander to people as victims. And I'm in your research and mine, Qingli's, I'm sure it's all the same. What we see is that what a mobbing target has to do is get back on their feet. However, that's going to happen one way or another. Life's going to go on, and you don't want it to pass you by, and so you do something creative to make life better. Can I just add a footnote to what you were saying about the consequences for the organization? I would really like to be able to say that workplace mobbing damages a workplace greatly, costs it a lot of money, threatens its existence. But in point of fact, from my research, in many cases, workplace mobbing is a step toward what Janice suggested, social cohesion. The rest of the workers who are left, they go on merrily with their work, being glad to have gotten rid of whoever was perceived as a threat. And if that mobbing target files a lawsuit against them or something, odds are mobbing target is going to lose. And so the institution will not be greatly damaged. There are lots of ways to make a workplace work. There are authoritarian, rotten ways of making it work, where you mob one employee after another. And there are civilized, decent, moral ways of running a workplace. But the immoral ways of running a workplace don't necessarily cause disaster. The workplace can go on for a long time.
I would also like to add some footnote to this consequence to the organizations. Yes, what Janice, what you just talk about, that's also in most of the mobbing case. It's just like, they just because they vote unanimously. Of course, there will be some kind of that environment, but that's short term. So that's the overall workplace culture. If the overall workplace culture support those bad things, that will create a mobbing culture. The mobbing is almost like a bullet with no eyes. Yeah, it could be random. Who knows who will be the next target? It could probably be the mobber.
In organizations that mob, they will find another target. It won't come one right after another.
Yeah,
There'll
that's
be a lull.
just the culture. So these are the things that we will talk about in the future, because our goal of this whole workplace mobbing education program series is how to prevent this from individual level, from the institutional level, organizational level, and from the whole society level. That's our goal.